3D platformer has been making a resurgence in the last several years. While Nintendo has always excelled in this lane, a lot of indie developers have been trying their hands to mixed results. The Knightling from Twirlbound, however, feels a cut above in nearly all of the action-adventure platforming boxes it aims to check. You play as the titular Knightling, a squire to not just a knight, but the knight, Sir Lionstone, who carries on his back a legendarily victorious showdown with the rival Earthborn Kingdom, as well as a mystical sword and shield looted from that encounter long ago. While adventuring alongside Lionstone, you uncover a vault of even more mystical weapons, but are also set upon by Earthborn sentries. As Lionstone loans you his shield for protection, the battle leads to your separation and Lionstone's disappearance. Left with just his shield, you're tasked with helping out the kingdom of Klesea in his stead and tracking down his whereabouts to bring him home. I instantly took to the premise of making the traditional sidekick the main protagonist, and the Knightling story does a good job of endearing you to the character's quest to prove themselves in the eyes of the kingdom and ultimately their knight Lionstone. But it goes the extra mile to introduce a more complex and nuanced plot that eventually interrogates the somewhat toxic codependency that a leader and assistant relationship can bear. That said, it sort of rushes through the back third of the game and ends rather abruptly, not allowing those more intriguing shifts in the narrative to play out in a satisfying way. I still very much enjoyed the overall story and the writing for smaller side quests and interactions in general. It all acts as a bonus to the solid platforming chops that could have carried the experience on their own. The platforming gives you access to a fun and unique kit of movement based around the shield, Magnus Stego, but also incorporates a lot of environmental elements into the expansion of that moveset. Landing on your shield will allow you to slide around, with hills of course providing extra speed, but particular patches of ground will accelerate you regardless of slope. Giant mushroom caps will bounce you up, but landing on your shield will launch you much higher. Upgrading the shield will eventually allow it to power up and fling you forwards or transform into a glider to extend the range of your jumps. The progression creates a very good escalation of movement and platforming that eventually has you jumping from massive heights and soaring across vast stretches of the environment with a full sense of control. Magnus Stego is also your primary means of combat and can be upgraded on a separate skill tree to add additional hits to your combos, new attacks, or just increase damage and other passive perks, though I found the shield-based combat to be a bit cumbersome. While it makes sense for a kid swinging a heavy object around to feel a bit sluggish, the pace of combat would oftentimes slow to a crawl due to gratuitous slow motion effects on moves like the parry, and awkward auto-targeting when surrounded by enemies, leading to big combo-ending whiffed attacks. The combat is certainly not a deal breaker and features impressive animation work, but is probably my least favorite aspect of the game. Presentation-wise, I liked the colorful, cartoonish world and character designs. Levels are big open spaces you can travel across seamlessly with occasional loading sections when you enter a new biome. The choice to cover every character's face with masks is an aesthetic decision that I'm still not sure whether I'm for or against, but every other aspect of the game's characters feel earnestly animated. The darting and widening of character eyes when visible convey a lot of emotion, but those are saved for a handful of main cast members. The main story took me about 10 or so hours to complete, with the various mini side quests taking maybe an additional hour or two combined. I ran into very few gameplay bugs with one big exception, where a story character I needed to speak with spawned in some far-off pit outside of the level that I still managed to reach, only to discover I was soft-locked there. Reloading a save from a half hour earlier managed to correct the issue thankfully, as I was near the end of the game. Despite that hiccup and my issues with the combat system, I had a great time with the Knightling. It's a modestly sized 3D platformer that understands deeply how important it is for the ability to jump to feel fun every time you do it. It manages to tell a meaningful story that punches above what you'd expect from the genre, but maintains the lighthearted and whimsical tone these games tend to excel in. If you're a fan of platformers, you'll want to give the Knightling a chance to prove itself. The game is out August 28th on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S.